How can you help yourself move away from the old sabotaging identity to a new empowering one? Welcome to this video. You see, it was Tony Robbins who said, the strongest force in any human personality is the need to stay consistent with how we define ourselves. Now, this talks about the topic of this video, which is how do you change, or how do you change your self-image? How do you change your identity? Now, why should we even go this route? You see, before I got a better understanding of this topic, whenever I could encounter someone, and when someone asked me, who are you or what do you do? I used to go from this shy and low energy state where I just want to say, you see, because my thinking was that being a Christian, I had to be humble. I don't want to feel like I'm proud. I don't want to appear as if I'm proud. So I could go from this place of, I need to be humble. So I can't tell somebody who I was really in the inside. I couldn't share my dreams and share my vision because I did not want it to come as though I was proud or as pride. I hope you get my point. So I understood something that changed my life, and that's what I want to share with you. Unfortunately, I learned it the hard way, and I don't want you to learn it that way. So from this point forward, I want you to note this, that every time you open your mouth, and when someone asks you, who are you, or what is your name, I want you to notice from now on that you're selling yourself. Yes, you are selling yourself. Every day you open your mouth and you're before somebody, or you're constantly, or you are maybe before a crowd, whatever it is, I want you to know that you're constantly engaged in a product called yourself. So every time you open your mouth and you're talking, whether the conversation has nothing to do with business, whether the conversation has nothing to do with your career, or it has nothing to do with what, just know you are selling yourself. So everything you say about yourself at that moment, now I want you to listen to me attentively, at that moment, it creates an experience and an impression about the person you are to that audience. That is something which is very powerful. And you see, when you're standing before people, you are creating an experience and you're creating an impression about you in front of those people. This is why every one of us needs to see how can we connect ourselves back to our true identity, so that the world needs to, that true identity that the world needs to know, not this one that we've picked up from our history, but the true identity. That's the one the world needs to know in order to begin to see us as we are, and in order to begin to know that we are important. So everything about your life and your business rotates around your identity. Unfortunately, most of us have not realized this. You see, whether your business, whether your relationship, whether everything about you rotates around your identity. I am here to prove this to you. Okay, so what is identity then? If I am to make it simple, identity is simply who you are. It is the way you think about yourself. It's the image you have about yourself. It is the way you see yourself. In fact, it is also the way that you are viewed by the world. It talks about your core. It talks about who you are when no one is watching you. I have a very funny story. When I was growing up, I was in primary 6, and I basically saw myself as a weak person. Our home was opposite the school, and so me and my other colleague, growing up, I grew up in a village setting. And so the young boys there, because they were used to rearing cows and doing all this kind of thing, they were fighting all the time. Now, this was not me, and this is not how I saw myself. So I basically, compared to other boys of my age, I saw myself as a very weak person. There are things that I used not to engage in. And also, this is how people used to see us, me and my colleague. And so one time there was a situation when a young girl basically, who was our classmate, We did not want her to sit because it was the teacher brought a new rule that in between every two boys there must be a girl, and so we had refused. When the teacher left, we refused to have this girl sit between us, and this girl beat two of us badly. Nobody helped us, and it was not because we didn't have the energy, but it was just because how we saw ourselves. Of course, I had to change that image about myself. But the point I'm making that it is who you think about yourself in the core. It's who you think about yourself when no one is watching. In other words, I like to put it this way. It is the photograph of yourself that you carry about yourself in your head. Yes, whenever you think about yourself, what comes in your head? So to really understand identity, you need to understand these three key things. One is self-concept. What is self-concept? Again, quickly, it is an idea constructed from the belief you hold about yourself and the responses of others. There are beliefs, there are things that you believe that is true about yourself, called your self-concept. That is what forms part of your identity. Then your self-esteem, that is confidence in your own worth or abilities. How do you believe you're worthy? Do you believe in your abilities? So that is part of your identity. Then your self-worth, which is the opinion you have about yourself and the value you place in yourself. So the three can simply be summarized as the photograph you carry about yourself in your head. This is so huge, especially in regard to getting to scaling your business, especially in regard to getting to the next level, because it is your identity that is responsible for that level. So there is no way you can fake your identity. You cannot just say, okay, let me fake it a little bit, make this result. No. You cannot fake it. You cannot parabolize it, or you cannot try to sandwich it and bagger it and so that it looks nice. It has all ways of showing itself when you present yourself or when you throw yourself out there. It will show itself. It will. There is no way you are going to hide it. You see, people will see that this is who you are behind the veil, and they'll tell who you are truly. And that was the situation. That's why that young girl beat two of us. People knew that we were weak. Not because we were weak, not a weak person. I changed that. I'm so strong now, but because of the identity I had about myself. So when you see, when you show up, people are seeing who you are in your closet. That's the truth. That's the truth. And so if anything that this video attempts to do is I want to be able to achieve what is called congruency. What is congruency? What I mean by congruency is staying, it's about you staying true to who you are inside out. It's a situation when the inside is matching with the outside, where there's nothing ambiguous about you. There's nothing clogging the wheel of who you are. I want who you are to come out, so that when people see you and when they call your name, it is just who you are. That is what we want to achieve. All right. So I have a beautiful story that will then bring about this transition. How do you bring about this transition so that we have this congruence coming in place? It's a story about a lion that grew up as a sheep. Most of us know the story, but it is worthy saying it again. It's about a farmer who lived in a village and was a head of sheep. And the story says one day, as he took his sheep out to pasture, and while the sheep were grazing, he suddenly heard a strange noise coming from a patch of grass. It was sounding like a kitten. So, led by his curiosity, this old shepherd went to see what was the source of this consistent sound. And so, to his surprise, he found alone a shivering lion cub, obviously separated from his family. And so, the old shepherd's first thought was the danger he would be in if he stayed so close to the cub and the parents returned. So, the old man quickly left the area and watched from a distance to see if the mother lion or if the pack would return. However, after the sun began to set, there was still no activity to secure the lion cub. So the old shepherd decided that in his best judgment and for the safety and survival of the lion cub, he would take the lion cub with him to the farmhouse and care for him. So over the next 8 months, the shepherd hand-fed the cub with fresh milk and kept him warm, safe, and secure in the protective confines of his farmhouse. So the story says that after the cub had grown into a playful, energetic ball of shiny muscles, he would take out the cub daily with the sheep to graze. The lion cub grew with the sheep and actually became part of the herd. They accepted him as one of their own, and he acted just like them. So after 15 months had passed, the little cub had now become actually an adolescent lion. But then guess what? He acted, sounded, responded, behaved just like sheep. In essence, the lion had become sheep by association. He had lost his true identity, had lost himself, and had become one of them. So one hot day, the story goes, 4 years later, the old shepherd sat on a rock, taking refuge in the slight shade of a leafless tree. He watched over his flock as they waded into the quiet, flowing water to drink. And the lion cub that thought was a sheep, the lion now, which is no longer a cub now, the lion that thought was a sheep, followed them in to the water to drink. Suddenly, just across the river, there appeared out of the thick jungle a big, large beast that the lion cub had never seen before. The sheep panicked, and as if under some spell of survival instinct, leaped out of the water and dashed towards the direction of the farm. They never stopped until they were all safely huddled behind the fence of the pen. Strangely, the lion cub, who was now a grown lion, was also huddled with them, stricken with fear. Was also there shaking, just like the other sheep. Now, while the flock scrambled for safety of the farm, the beast made a sound that seemed to shake the forest. When the old shepherd lifted his head above the tall grass, the shepherd could see that that the beast held in his blood-drained mouth the lifeless body of a lamb from the flock. That day, the beast was able to catch a lamb from the flock. So the old man knew that danger had returned to that part of the forest. So 7 days passed without further incidents. And then while the flock grazed, this young lion now went down to the river to drink. As he bent over the water, he suddenly panicked and ran wildly towards the farmhouse for safety. The sheep did not run this time, and they wondered why the lion had run. And then the lion also wondered why the sheep had not run, since he had seen the beast again. So the lion was in confusion. I have seen the beast. Why have this guy not run? After a while, the young lion came back slowly to the flock and then to drink the water again. Once more, he saw the beast and froze in panic. It was his own reflection in the water. I pray that one day you come face to face with yourself. Someone said, you will fear yourself the day you meet your true self. But anyway, the story continues and says that while this young lion tried to understand what he was seeing, suddenly the beast appeared out of the jungle again. The flock dashed with a breakneck speed towards the farmhouse. But before the young lion could move, the beast stepped into the water towards him and he made that defending sound that filled the entire forest. For a moment, the young lion felt that his life was about to end. He realized that now he did not just see one beast, but he saw two, one in the water and one right before him. His head was now spinning with confusion as the beast came within 10 feet of him and growled at him face to face with frightening power in a way that seemed to say to him, try it, come and follow me. After, as fear gripped the young lion decided to try to appease the beast and make the same sound because he thought that is the only way out for him. However, the saddening fact is the only noise that came from his gaping jaws was the sound of a sheep. The beast then responded with even a louder burst that seemed to say to him, try it again. And the story says after 7 or 8 attempts, the young lion suddenly heard himself make the same sound as the beast. But also, he felt stirrings in his body and feelings that he had never known before. It was as if he was experiencing a total transformation in his mind, body, and spirit. Suddenly, there stood in the river of life 2 beasts, growling at and to each other. Then the shepherd saw something he would never forget. He said, as the beastly sound filled the forest for miles around, the big beast stopped all of a sudden and then turned his back on the young lion and started towards the forest. Then he paused and looked at the young lion one more time and growled as if to say to him, are you coming? The young lion also knew what the gesture meant and suddenly realized that his day of decision had arrived. The day he would have to choose whether to continue to live as a sheep or to be the self he had just discovered. But he knew that to become his true self, he would have to give up the safe, secure, predictable, and simple life of the farm. And he would have to enter the frightening, wild, untamed, unpredictable, and dangerous life of the jungle. It was the day to become true to himself and leave the false image of another life behind. It was an invitation of a sheep to become the king of the jungle. Most importantly, it was an invitation for the body of a lion to possess the spirit, the mentality of a lion. After looking back and forth at the farm and the jungle a few times, the young lion turned his back on the farm and the sheep with whom he had lived for years, and he followed the beast into the forest to become whom he always had been, a lion king. In this video, my attempt for you is to give you the same invitation to leave the false image of another life behind and take on the lion you are, to take on the true identity of who God has created you to be. So this story shows us that the transformation from that there has to be a transformation from the old sabotaging identity to a new empowering identity. This is the journey that you must take if you want to see your dream come to pass. But for the basic, as far as identity is concerned, we must understand the following. Number one, that your identity is basically unique to you. Your identity is unique to you. So when they say, who are you? And you answer, I am. For example, I'm CRO, fully alive. I like to help my fellow humans who are inspiring to become who God has destined them to be. Those are the people that I work with. So that is myself. You see, I'm not just an object. I'm not just one of the people. I am here to make the world a better place. To make the world better than what it was or what it is. I'm a force for good. I'm a force to be reckoned with. I have what it takes to give life to my community. Now, that is who I am. That is how I see myself. So this is my identity is unique to me, just like scientifically proven that no two human beings have the same fingerprints. It is impossible. So and I think that should make you realize the fact that you should never at any point in time try to look down or try to belittle the power of who God has framed you to be. I want you to know that the true you, the person, the spirit being, I hope you know that your spirit, soul, and body. Yes, you simply live in a body, but you have a soul, which is your mind, which is the faculty with which you interpret the world, but you are a spirit being. You are a spirit being. If you can ever meet that spirit being, if you can ever come face to face with that spirit being, you will be amazed. So that is number one. You must know that your identity is unique to you. But the other thing that you must know that this identity also is actually what controls your emotional home. The way you feel emotionally is controlled by your identity. Yes, your emotional home is controlled by your identity. That is why some people claim to have all the money in the world, and then they are still miserable, and then they still commit suicide. Let's consider this example. Have you ever been to a party, everyone in the room, things are happening, there's joyful music playing, everyone is happy, but while in that environment of all happiness, do you know that the identity you give yourself can tell about the emotional home that you live in that environment? Like everybody can be happy and they are partying, but you're sitting down there. Inside of you, you are all moody and you're all sad, and maybe you're angered by something, or nobody knows, but the way you think, the way what is happening inside of you is what's going to determine this emotion that you operate in. Now, some of us, you may assume, you see, all I need is money. Money is the problem to majority of people. No. Money is not the problem majority of people have. I know what I'm talking about, but hold on a moment. You go and check the life of, the life of money, Hollywood celebrities. I'm talking about who have all the money. And again, the money that you and me are dreaming of, the money that me and you are saying, if I could have, I would be the happiest person. Yet they are miserable. Yet they are sad. Some of them are even contemplating suicide. Most of us, not most of them, some of them have committed suicide. You see, so all these suicidal thoughts, others are going through trauma, and money is not helping them, yet they have the money. They have the money. So how can we move away from those kind of identities and get ourselves to the real, true identity? That is why the topic of this video is talking about changing your self-image, changing your identity, getting back like the sheep, the lion that talks about sheep, being able to reconnect back to the lion that lives inside of you. Because this is the only way to be able to capture who God has created you to be and has made you to be. So really, I wanted to hold on and let's finish this video so that we really understand. Watch this video to the end. I will definitely show you how to be able to do that. But also, I had said the first thing is the identity is unique to you. The second thing is your emotions are determined by your identity. The third thing is this: your decisions are actually defined by your identity. Okay? Why do people, for example, why does one person stop smoking and the other continue just counting days? See, the only way for you to really make a lasting change, to make changes that will never happen, is when you shift that identity. Just like that lion that thought was sheep, you see, he made a decision. He had to look back to the farm, to look back to the sheep that he had been with, and look back and look forward to the jungle where he was heading and said, look, I got to make the decision. Thank God he made a decision to head to the jungle to be his true self. So my point is, whether you think you're a loser and that is now sabotaging all your steps, or you think you're a procrastinator, and then, of course, once you think this way, you develop the belief system that support that, and you begin to repeat that. The point is, you leave that identity. And once you leave that identity, you'll always find a way to confirm it. So your identity is what decides what you look for in life. In other words, what you find, what you look for, and what you find is dependent on your decision. So your decision in life is shaped by your identity. I can guarantee that identity is the level that you change your life forever. Like that, for you to change your life forever, you must confront this thing called identity. So because your identity defined by what your beliefs and what your disbeliefs are. So let's understand a little bit what do I mean by this. See, the way to really make change, the way to really step out forward and make things happen is by changing this image of yourself. So this example I'm giving, that when someone decides to stop smoking, they do that because they have changed their identity, that I am not a smoker. They have decided that their identity is a non-smoker. They now see themselves as non-smokers. And if they can shift that, if that shift can occur, then they will reinforce it over and over again, and then smoking will stop forever. You see, it was Spencer Jackson who said something. Spencer Johnson, I mean. He said this: when you change what you believe, you change what you do. Isn't that not a powerful quote? When you change what you believe, you change what you do. So when we talk about the person who stops smoking, if he decides that, you know what, I want to stop smoking, and he changes that his identity, that, you know what, I am no longer a smoker, the rest is history. So it starts with believing what you can change. If he cannot believe that he can stop to smoke, if he just says, you know, for me, I'm a smoker, for me, all this is my life. I went to preach the gospel sometime when, I think way back when I was in the university. And so I met this layman and who had been, I think, affected by polio some years back. And so I was telling him that, you know, Jesus can heal him, and he can live, he can throw his stick, and he can, you know, my faith was high. I wanted the man to walk. But the guy told me, said, young man, forget about this. The only day I will drop this stick is when I'm in my coffin. He said that. And when he said that, I had to stop, because I could not force the will of God on him. He said the only day they will remove that thing from him was when he's dead. When he's dead. You see, so he wasn't willing to think about any other possibility. He says it's impossible. Remove your nonsense. Leave me alone. The day I'll leave my stick is when I'm dead. You see, so a change begins with you believing that you can change. And then you begin, and the moment you begin to tell yourself that, then you want to change. So it's a question now of, okay, why do I want to change? If I can change, then why do I want to change? And then the rest will just start counting days. There's this story of a friend of mine again. She had done the same papers, the same exam almost. I think that was the same exam like 6 times. It was the 6th time that she passed, but she had been failing. And said that one time in the 5th year, she told herself, said Winnie, an end has to come with this life of failing. She told herself, said, an end has to come to this your life of failing. That is what she told herself. You see, she shifted her identity. She told herself that moment, that when she told that moment, a shift occurred. So when that shift occurred, there was a reinforcement that happened in her subconscious mind that gave her the energy and the resolve to go and get things done at all cost. Of all cost does not mean she was going to do what was not acceptable, but that resolve reinforced her belief that she can pass. Because she told me, she came to the realization and said, you know what, every one of these young children, because I was now sitting exams with young children, because imagine you sit the same paper 5 times. It means if you were in senior 6, now the people who were in senior 1, when you entered senior 6, they are now doing the same, you are now sitting the same exams with them. So you said that every one of these young children that you were sitting their exams with, they did not have more brain. Nobody told. She came to that realization. So she said, you know, every single one of them has one brain. So at that point, she saw a possibility. Why? Because something happened. So every single one of us, we have what it takes to change. But it begins with us changing the image of ourselves. So we can change our present circumstances. We can change our present story. We can change our present identity. We can change our present picture and even our present personality. You have what it takes to change. You have what it takes to change. That point has to sink. You have what it takes to change. Because when you change what you believe, you change what you can do. When you change what you believe, you change what you can do. So when you believe that this thing can be changed, you will not struggle to believe that you are going to see the end, the desired end. And that was what happened to my friend Winnie. So Winnie, an end has to come to this your life of failing. And right there, that was the year in the sixth sitting that she passed her exam. So that is how powerful identity is. But even if we take it to the next level, did you know that your current brand is formed by your identity? Yes, your business brand is formed by your identity. Your identity is your brand because it defines how you respond to yourself as well as how people around you respond to you. Because be careful with the word you put after I am. Isn't it not amazing that God says, when he says, I am, say, let the weak say, I am strong. Let the sick say, I am healed. Let the blind say, I can see. It does not say, let the weak say, I am weak, I'm just struggling. Say, let the weak say, I am strong. Because what you say, when you use the word I am, you better be careful with what follows. Why? Because, you see, your perceived identity of yourself and of others is what determines how you relate with yourself and how you relate with others. Okay, let me give this example. If you believe that someone is good, if you believe that this person is generous, that the person is caring, and that the person is well-intentioned, that belief will inform how you interact with that person. You get it? If you believe I am good, I'm generous, I'm caring, that is going to determine how you interact with me. So if that good person, that person you believe is good, if they do something bad to you, you will rationalize it and justify. You say, maybe they're just having a bad day, because we need to confirm the perception of your identity that they are good. So even though they do something bad, you believe that, maybe they're just having a challenge. So assuming you are the type that maybe is always, apologetic, you're always apologizing and all this kind of thing, telling people, sir, you calling people sir, because you always like to apologize. That would be, okay. The point I'm saying is this. If that is who you assume to be, you'll always feel that you're not strong. That kind of identity will always make, because that was me. I remember I've just told you a story of why a girl beat two of us, because we were the kind where like humble, just just what. So it really made me suffer a lot growing up. I paid for it dearly, and the climax was being beaten by a girl, and so the way we perceive our identity determines the way we relate with other people and the way we relate with ourselves, and even how we judge our behaviors or judge our other people's behavior. Think about this statement. If you believe that somebody is good, that person is generous, I want you to think about it, not just hear me, but think about it. If you believe someone is good, if you believe that they are generous, and maybe you are meeting this person for the first time and you need help, and here you go, they already offered a seat, they're telling you, please, can you sit down? Already before even you sit down, they run and get a drink. So as you're still just sitting, and you know what, they begin to ask, you begin to have a perception. You begin to craft an image, a picture of who that person is. So can you see that now your perceived identity of others is going to determine how you relate with them? So also the same way you perceive yourself will determine how you respond and how other people respond to you. You get it? So when we say your identity is your brand, because if you perceive yourself as a strong person, if you perceive yourself as all this, that is how others are going to relate to you, but also that's how you are going to relate to yourself. This is very key. So you say, okay, I want to scale, but how do you perceive yourself? You see, I want to scale to 6 figures, but how do you perceive yourself? How do you perceive yourself? So you got to understand that. You got to understand that even if the other, if okay, I think maybe let me give the opposite of the other example. Let's perceive that you perceive this person to be an enemy to you, and so you hate the person. You try to avoid them. Now, even if that person begins to behave nice to you, even though they begin to do something that's good to you, you begin saying, okay, now this person is not really nice, but look, now they're trying to do all this nice stuff. I think you begin thinking there is something, you're smelling something. So you see, so the same way with you, if you believe that you're a procrastinator, that's your identity. Now, even though you wake up and that day you're just, oh yeah, just because of that motivation, but soon, yeah, very soon I'm going to fall in my place. You get it? Soon I will be this. Soon I will be this. Okay, you make all that income, but okay, I've just made, but soon you're going to go back. So this is why, if somebody does something bad to you, we will judge them based on the perception of the identity inside our subconscious mind. I hope this is just because this is huge. But for me, the point is, let's not just consider it as far as others are concerned, but let's consider it as far as you are concerned. You yourself also has a current image you have about yourself. Now, that is how you treat yourself. That is how you react yourself. So you can see that everything about us is located about our identity. Your next level in life is related to your identity. Your branding about the way you present yourself, the way you perceive others has to do with the identity that you have in your subconscious mind. So then, how do we create a new identity? How do we change this? So once we've decided that this is going to be your identity, it's going to start controlling you. Now, we've already agreed on that. So your decisions become consistent with that identity. So then it means then we have to get away so that we align that identity with our vision, with our future. We need to have the right and the true identity that God gave to us so that we can be able to achieve our dreams. All right? So how do we do this? So I want you to know that everything begins with 2 things. What the image you have about yourself and what you tell yourself, okay? What's the message that you send to your brain? Because your 2 million-year-old brain, as the psychologists like to say it personally, I don't believe that. I believe that I think the world should be around, is it 4,000 or 6,000 years old? Yes. But that brain does not differentiate between negative and positive. For it, it doesn't differentiate. So that anything you keep sending to it, that is what it believes. All right. So we want to be able to align our brain with everything that God tells us we are. All right. So it means we have to change our mouth, what is coming, and we have to change the picture that is entering our mind. And so how do we do this? How do we begin to frame this new identity? How do we begin to go through the other process that the lion went through? All right. So first is you have to be very careful to what you attach the word I am to. Whenever you say I am, be very careful with what you attach. Anytime you open your mouth and say I am this, make sure that you are not saying something negative, because that is how it's going to control yourself. So many of us, we know what our dreams are. And we are even often moving towards our dreams. We are doing things to move toward our dream, but often we limit our potential. We limit our dream by our small thinking. And because we try to live our past experiences. So the first way we limit ourselves or limit this potential is we know what our dreams are, but we wouldn't let ourselves imagine it in our minds and say it out with our mouth. Yes, we refuse to let ourselves imagine us fulfilling, seeing ourselves fulfilling. You see, we operate with our imaginations. We function as humans with our imagination. You cannot do anything on earth without your imagination. For example, you cannot locate where your car is without your imagination. You don't know the direction of your home without your imagination. In other words, let me ask you this question. If I say a dog, see the word a dog? You see right now? And if I say black dog, you form an image of that somewhere in your head. That is where your imagination is. Or for example, if I ask you, how many windows were the house that you grew up in having? How many windows was the house that you grew up in having? So all of us, you grew up somewhere. That's not where you're living right now. So how many windows? You see, right now, if you listen to me, your mind is going to picture, you're going to count the windows. You see, you don't have that information. You don't say, okay, hold on, Richard, and then you're opening a file and say, okay, here's the picture. No, but in your head, you have that. So you function with your imagination. So where do we create our self-image and our new identity? In our imagination. In our imagination. And we do that by now begin picturing ourselves living this dream, fulfilling this destiny. We must learn to see things coming to pass. We must learn to create pictures in our mind of the things we desire coming to pass. Because many of us can't allow ourselves to see ourselves doing the thing that we dream to do. Now we say, oh, that's fantasy, or that kind of thing. But you better believe it, because you operate in fantasy. For you to say you're going to town, it is fantasy, because you've not gone to town, but you've already gone there. You've already said, okay, when I go to town, I will go and remove money from here. I'll go and shop there. I'll go and do this. I'll go. But you're speaking something that has not happened. So is that fantasy? You see, but because it has not happened, but you are going to make it happen. The same way with your dream. The challenge is this, that once we go through many failures and we kind of become used to it. Like the old saying that, once, every time you pet a dog and it bites you, you quit petting it. So many of us, because of the consistent failing, we stop seeing ourselves fulfilling our dreams, our God-given dreams. So the fastest way to change yourself is to start imagining yourself fulfilling your dreams, talking, and then not just imagining, beginning to talk those dreams, beginning to speak about your dreams. So most of us, unfortunately, we only see negative things. Our imagination only sees negative things, but we have not started developing our imagination. We have not intentionally sat down to change the picture that we carry about ourselves. I have a beautiful story of one of my early days mentors. He's a great pastor, and was talking this story. He said, he was moving to a new facility for his Bible college. And so he told us a story. He said, so he used to live in a place, their offices was only, I think, was around 14,000 square feet or something, square meter something. And so they were moving to this new place. It was a warehouse, which was 140, in other words, 10 times where they were. And so he said, when he went there, they had put duct tapes where, how they're going to partition. And every evening, he was going and he could follow the duct tape where the door is. He opens the door. Remember, it was just duct tape. They had not partitioned anything. It was just a big warehouse. But in his mind, he created. He walked, he opened the door. He said he could get 2 paint gallons and put plywood and stand on top, and then he could preach for hours. He said every day for 2 hours in the evening, and he could pray in tongues as he's creating. Okay, this is what I want to see. This is how is it how I want it to be? Okay, then this will be. He created the whole image in his mind. He created the whole image in his mind. And that is how he was able to bring to pass that. He saw students filled and he was preaching and teaching them. And guess what? He stayed there less than 2 years. He's now in their own facility, hundreds of, as in billion-dollar investment. So this is how me and you function. I want to leave you with this very last story. I've told you quite a lot of stories today, but I hope these stories help you to learn. You see, this was about a woman who was blind. She was a wife to a pastor, and she was blind. And so this evangelist came to our church to pray with her. Came to our church and decided to pray with her. But, you know, she had been, I think, disappointed from the past. And so she did not want to be prayed. She had her glasses and said, let me just continue. But this guy insisted, said, you know, I need to pray for you. So she accepted. So the guy said, okay, close your eyes. She closed her eyes. The guy prayed. And the guy asked her a question, can you see? And so when she began to open her eyes, she said, no, I did not tell you to open your eyes. I asked, can you see? So she closed her eyes again. And so this guy prayed for her and said, ask again, can you see? And so when she's opening her eyes, said, no, I'm not telling you to open your eyes. So it was in the third or fourth round that she understood that she was supposed to see herself seeing in the inside before she could see in the outside. And so when she understood that, she also prayed. She prayed and then finally told this guy, said, you know, when the guy said, can you see? She said, I can see. When she opened her eyes, indeed, she was seeing. This example, this story simply illustrates to us that we must first see that image inside of us before we see it in the outside of us. So begin developing your imagination. Begin creating. What dream do you want to? What do you believe God is calling you to do? Begin to make sure you create, you develop, and it must be intentional. It cannot just happen by, you know, haphazardly just going about your life. You must be intentional. This is how you begin to change your self-image. You begin to change it in line with who God has called you to be. And as we learned that now, because your decisions are made from your self-image, because your brand comes out of it, because your emotions come out of it, because your action, everything comes from your identity. Once now that new picture is put in place, you develop that new picture, and as you speak it out, you develop it inside, speaking it out. That is how everything changes. So hope you find this video powerful and helpful in order to help you get to the next level. I will see you in the next video.